Welcome back, folks, to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. On today's show, we have Christina Calaway. Greg, that was a heck of a show talking about marketing.
It's a big part of the lighting industry, so great topic, and I'm glad we did it.
Sauce it up,
Diving
baby.
in.
You know how you
Sauce
and
it.
I were always talking about saucing it up. And you know what? Just to sauce it up a little more, we got Christina Calaway in the intro. What's up, Christina?
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Just tell the peeps out there a little bit about your company, where they can find you.
Sure, it's my company's Spark Media, and the website you can find me at is sparkmedialtg for lighting.com, and my email is callaway@sparkmedialtg.com.
I don't know if you should have put your email out there because there's some crazy listeners to this show. You might get hot blasted with a whole bunch of emails. But before we get to that, Greg, we got to go light made easy, man. KEYSTONETECH.com, baby. KeystoneTech.com.
Marketing and lighting. I don't know if there's not many people that do it better than Keystone. They have a great marketing pieces. They have the right spec sheets, as we're going to talk about today in the show. They have great product, too. You think of them for a lot of LED retrofits and things, but they also have fixtures now, especially exterior. They're coming in hot with floodlights, wall packs, and they're going to have area lights, too, coming soon. And they're not like everybody else's, as we talk about today, is differentiating yourself. They have color selectable features on a lot of these products, but you don't see in exterior fixtures much. So check those things out.
Oh, baby. You got to go to KeystoneTech.com. Come on, man. It's light made easy, Greg. The Retrofit Kings. We've had other sponsors on the show. We have lots of great sponsors, everybody, and great nailed vendor members. But Keystone is so innovative, man. They're always coming out with new products, always listening to the distributors. And as we talked about on the show with Christina, listening to your customers is very important. Of course, Keystone, members of the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors, where all the conversations happen, all the hot juice. Come on down. We're gonna get something going soon. As soon as this virus thing moves forward, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. But for right now, Christina Calaway, she's here now. She's going to come out to you hot in a second on the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. Welcome to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast, Christina Calaway.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Say hi to Greg Ehrich.
Hi, Greg.
Hi, Christina. Thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me.
I love somebody that's excited about Pulse Start Metal Halide.
That was the first thing that stuck out when I read your bio,
It was the greatest thing
too.
ever.
Yeah, sure it was.
That was exciting technology back in the day.
You know what? I mean, I don't dislike it. I think that there are better alternatives today, but tell us a little bit about how your past, the HID, what was it about HID back in the late 90s, early 2000s that was so hot?
Well, Pulse Start technology was really the first new technology that spoke to an energy reducing light source. And at the time, LED was known, but it was only in the form of flashlights and very early technology. It wasn't adopted widely. And HID, actually Venture Lighting, was, I believe, one of the first, if not the first, to develop a high intensity discharge energy reducing alternative to traditional HID lamps, in particular high pressure sodium lights. You could really cut the energy, get a better quality of light at the time. And that was really kind of the first discussion.
Pulse Start as opposed to Probe Start, right? That's what we're talking about?
Right. It allowed for the lamp to strike and become bright in a quicker time frame than that sort of waiting after you flip the switch. You had to wait for it to warm up. So Pulse Start was also a quicker strike to get the arc tube to glow quicker. You wouldn't have the delay.
It's interesting how different lighting technology is now, like striking and stuff like that. Capacitors, like striking and startup and deionization to take the lamp back so it can be restarted. You know, people that come into lighting past 2010 have no idea about that, Greg.
No, not the pulse start metal halide. They've heard metal halide, but pulse start. That's what's fun about
Probe
it.
start, pulse start.
You can run into some weird ones out there.
Super metal halide, yeah.
Super.
That's super metal halide. MS. The open rated, so there's no, so you don't have to worry about, what do they call it? Non-passive failure. That was a big innovation.
Right. Yeah, so they had a shroud inside the lamp that would take the impact should that arc tube explode. And that really changed the game as well, because now you could install a replacement to high pressure sodium in big high bay, big warehouses and have a brighter light, which really made working in that environment much better. You could see better, the contrasts were better, you were saving energy, and oh, by the way, it's a safer alternative than having a bulb crash and burn on over your head while you're trying to do your work. But obviously, since then, we've come a long way. And with that, all the other components that were necessary to even get the lamp to light. I mean, you had capacitors, you had starters, you had the ballast, and it was just a lot of equipment to just get light. And boy, have we come far from that.
So why aren't you selling pulse start metal halides now?
Well, I'm happy to say I'm not selling lighting anymore at and I mean, I think we've all seen what's happened to the industry as far as the commoditization of lighting. A flat panel, a tube, a can light. It's all pretty well leveled in the playing field now. And of course, margins aren't the way they used to be. When LED was first adopted, it was much more expensive than it is today. And everybody in the chain, down the chain from manufacturer to distributor, were making their money trying to get this new technology adopted widely in the field. And now what we've seen is sort of a leveling out of efficiencies and pricing, and unfortunately margins for everyone in that chain have largely shrunk, and there's a lot of competition. So I found myself utilizing my network, utilizing my connections, and the people that I have grown close to in the lighting industry over the years to provide a different type of value that is outside of schlepping flat panels.
So I got two things to say right here, just for the entire industry. Okay. Number one, I hate flat panels. There, I said it. Personally, I think it's the worst thing the lighting industry has ever done. So
that's a big statement.
But
worst?
The worst. No, well, maybe low watt T8 tubes would have been worse, but most people won't be able to relate to that. We have the 30 watt, we have the 28 watt, we got a 27 watt. That was worse, more ridiculous. But I hate flat panels, whether they're round or square. I sell tons of them. I have no idea why anyone would ever buy a flat panel. But hey, I'm in the lighting game, so I got to sell them ship. But I hate flat panels. So there you go. The second thing, though, is you're in the marketing business of lighting. Okay?
Correct.
Like, why does lighting is so sexy with the way they talk about things? Like, full spectrum. Non-passive failure. That's an explosion. No. I don't know what you're talking about with this explosion thing. That's a non-passive failure event. No, the light bulb exploded. No, it didn't. That's not what happened. Why is lighting so good with labeling and naming and what? Because you have to go back pre-LED to get into it, because it's a long history of smoke, mirrors, and sauce and sizzle. Why are we so good at this, Christina?
Well, we've had to be in order to survive. I mean, frankly, lighting is one of the last things that someone thinks about, so long as it turns on when you flip the switch, right? So the whole idea of marketing and lighting is to make people believe that they need the next greatest thing. And the next greatest thing might be the fact that my downlight is CCT selectable, or that I get an alert on my phone when someone turns on a light in my house and I'm not there. It's always on to the next thing. And quite frankly, as we just mentioned, flat panels are flat panels. Everybody kind of sells them because they're a necessary evil. But what is the technology that they're now incorporating into those flat panels? And basically it's controls. So I've had many conversations with a lot of the lighting controls companies in our industry, and they're quite honest about why they work with lighting companies instead of just going straight to the end user to have their control systems installed in these facilities. And that's because lighting has now become a conduit for a much higher technology, and that is these sophisticated control systems that are capable of monitoring not only the people in its space, but how they move in that space when they're in that space.
Don't be talking about the matrix. We don't want to enter the matrix here.
Oh, we're already there, man.
Like you're talking about the matrix. Like, it's interesting because, blue pill, red pill, this kind of thing. There's an interesting angle, like the li-fi. So light as a conduit for information. That's so interesting, actually.
Yes.
And that the fact that darkness is light. That's another interesting thing. Okay, and that the human eye can only see certain spectrums, but the information can be passed at any time and is not limited by what the human eye can see. This is super interesting, Greg Ehrich.
It is.
I'm halfway through Lieberman's book. Bro, that guy's going deep. I don't know if you know Dr. Jacob Israel Lieberman. We interviewed him yesterday, and I'm reading his book, and I went wild on it last night because it's super interesting. Just how light works and this sort of thing. And then connecting it to the matrix is what we call it on this show. It's like, information from light, that's the matrix. You're actually going to be walking through the internet at some point. If you think about it in that sense, the internet will be the light around you. When you're talking about marketing this, how do you put the sauce and the sizzle on that? Why would people want this?
Well, I think by and large, LED is already widely adopted. People are not afraid of the technology anymore like they were maybe 8 or 10 years ago. I mean, you walk into any Ace department store, Home Depot, Lowe's. I mean, that's what's on the shelf, right? You rarely get the opportunity to buy an incandescent or even a compact fluorescent bulb at a store without seeing a much display of LED. So the idea that I have to sell the technology is way low on the pole. More so, it becomes what other value added services or how easy is it to do business with your company, the service levels that really set the company apart and why you would want to purchase their particular widget over somebody else's exact widget. And that's really what it's become, because all of the lighting companies now have a flat panel. All of the lighting companies have a high bay, and they're all virtually the same. If they're not buying from the same factory, they're creating them in the same image.
Great.
And they have to do that. That's right.
We got to sauce it up.
They just crank them out.
We got to sauce it up.
You got to sell yourself, right? You got to sell your company, and what other values and services can you provide that go well beyond the commodity flat panel and can and such.
Yeah. What are the particular
there's
services
so many
that you guys offer?
Well, I personally don't offer them. I help other companies write the content that makes their spec sheets, their sell sheets, their case studies speak the language of the industry, which is very, very important now that we're seeing more and more imported products coming from overseas, and spec sheets that follow that really aren't written in the way that the U.S. market is used to reading.
Oh, baby. I got to interrupt you for a second. Okay. And
yeah.
I'm just going to, can I disclose it, Greg?
Yeah, you sure can.
Okay. So before the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast was launched, and I don't know when it was, somewhere 3 or 4 years ago, Greg and I launched something called North American Lighting Advisors.
NALA.
It crashed and burned. But what it was we went to China and a couple times, and we tried to talk Chinese LED manufacturers into letting us write their marketing material for them, because we were getting really sick of getting instead of saying frosted, milky. Nobody wants a milky too, buddy.
No.
Milky, no, we're good without milky, right? So
Yeah.
we were gonna go and advise for them, and nobody took us up to their huge loss. Actually,
Absolutely.
they would
They've
have
not
made.
gotten better, that's for sure.
It has actually. It was ridiculous
Yes, it's
back
Some
in
of
the,
it.
It was no, but you can't sell in centimeters in the U.S., buddy. Just got news for you.
No.
Like,
Right.
okay, like I'm gonna save you $1 million and tell you that nobody knows centimeters south of the 49th parallel, and in Canada, most people don't know centimeters either. So take that
Yeah, right.
stuff to Europe. But this idea of translating the message, not from Chinese
Right.
into English, but just from taking it from one position to the other. But what is the message?
I think it's vitally important to convey that whatever product from wherever you're sourcing it from or manufacturing it, the message has to be that it's a reliable source of light. I mean, at the end of the day, people are paying money for this and in large projects at that. So there's names that are written on these projects that carry a particular weight, whether they're the large ESCOs, whether it's a large national account, a large distributor. There's a lot of hands that touch that product before it's installed. And so it's vitally important that the customer has a level of confidence that their investment is protected.
Who
Now,
is the
whether that
customer?
becomes well, everybody actually, isn't
No,
it?
who?
So
No. There's different kinds of customers. There's
certainly.
Greg and I. We're one type of customer. We're lighting distributors. There's contractors. And there's end
Right.
users. Which customer are you talking about?
Well, I think it's whomever is purchasing and installing the product. So the person that's basically on the hook, so that would be either the ESCO or the distributor ultimately, because if there's a failure, it's them that has to bear the burden, not only of getting the new product replaced, getting it installed, but then saving face with the end user customer that, you're there to take care of the issue should there be one in the future.
So you're working on manufacturers' cut sheets and maybe their catalogs and things. Are you doing a lot with websites? Are you doing social media? What else are you doing on the marketing side?
Yes, thank you. I am doing social media. As far as website design, I'm not a graphics person. I'm not a website SEO optimization type service. I can't provide that, but I do have partnerships that I've aligned myself with so that I can recommend a resource should one of my customers require that. And quite frankly, that's been an equal side of my business, to be honest, because what I found is a lot of the new, and I'll call them more of a tier 2 type supplier, whether it's an importer, an assembler, or even a distributor that doesn't have the resources to pay a $75,000 salary for a full-time marketing person. And so oftentimes for their website, they hire someone, a third party outside the industry, and while their website looks really nice, it's written in strange language, or it's not in keeping with what the industry expects when they go to try to find a spec sheet. If you have to search too long to try to find the information, then you're a click away from losing that opportunity with another manufacturer. So I think that the website is vital, important to specifically the language that's used on the website, but then also that translates down the line to the spec sheets and the sell sheets that they use. So so I have a couple guys that I work with that do that very well. And that's been great. For me, though, as far as the online presence, which is a necessary evil, LinkedIn is kind of, our industry's way of really, at a glance, getting to know what's going on.
But yeah, LinkedIn is where like people from foreign countries harass me. That's it.
Yeah, that's
That's
well,
it.
you have ways to set your settings to kind of minimize that, but it is for sure every day I get maybe 5 or 6 you know requests to connect or messages direct about Mr. Christina Calaway. We'd like for you to buy our light. So, you can imagine how successful these guys are when they take that approach. But aside from that, too, it's brand awareness. If you're out there and nobody knows about it, the odds that you're growing your business or growing your brand are pretty slim. So it's a necessary evil, but it's also a time suck, right? Online anything is a time suck. And so do you want your salespeople on LinkedIn pushing the fact that they just sold, 60,000 flat panels to a school district, or, that's gee whiz and that's great, but they need to be out selling. And the management is really far too busy to be sitting in front of their computer, wondering what kind of post they should put out there. But yet you have to do that because you have to show your colleagues, your
Why?
customers, other people in the industry that you're relevant, that you're evolving,
Yeah,
that you have something new to
yeah.
say, something new that you've done.
I'm not so sure that's true. I
Oh, well,
think, I think like sometimes social media posts are kind of giving out information that shouldn't really be given out.
well,
I'll
it's
give
not
you
that you can't already find on their website.
no, but I'll give you an example. So we had a guest on the show, and he's from a foreign country in Europe. Okay, came on the show, and all of a sudden, Get a Grip on Lighting hit the charts of 2 countries in Europe, like boom. So like thousands of people in those countries listened to the show because he went on it. And he emailed me. I sent him this and said, "Hey, look what happened. A lot of people that care about lighting in your area of the world, caught our podcast, and here's the stats." And he said, "Can you do me a favor?" I said, "What's that?" He said, "Can you post that on LinkedIn for me and just at me or whatever?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, sure. Why?" So I wrote him back like, "Why don't you do it?" And he said, it's kind of like not cool to do that where I'm from. Right? And there's something about the braggingness of social media that there's something to it that is hubristic and annoying. And it's more allowed in America and less allowed in Canada, but becoming more popular in where I'm from in Canada. Canada used to be like the European country where this guy's from, where he didn't brag about stuff, right? But he wouldn't even repost it. He just wanted me to post it and at him. So I did it, of course. I had Scotty do it, and Scotty, boom, Get a Grip Studios put it up, and you're amazing. But I feel like there's a phoniness in that. How do we overcome that as an industry, Christina?
Well, I think you have to be careful about what it is that you're posting. There is a braggadocious aspect to it if that's where you're coming from in your post. But there's a lot of education in our industry. There's a lot of sharing of ideas, even amongst competitors. For instance, at Namco, yes, there are competitors that also belong, but we share ideas about the industry. We share our struggles, our challenges, and maybe solutions. And let's not forget, no one company has a solution for everything. So oftentimes there's a collaboration that happens. If there's a gap, and how else are you going to know what's available to you if you don't go out onto these platforms and learn about what's new, what's fresh with your colleagues, with your customers? And there's,
That's why
maybe
they
a little
listen
bit
to
of
the Get a Grip on Lighting
ask
podcast.
with that.
That's why they listen to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast.
I've been meaning to talk to you about that because I see you have less than 400 followers on LinkedIn, and I could really get you exposed to over 6,500 of my followers in the industry.
Oh, yeah, we want that. That's for sure.
I know you would. All of a
All right,
sudden,
we'll
your
take
tune
it.
changes.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about us is that we don't get a lot of likes, and we don't get a lot of we get comments, but we sure as hell get a lot of downloads, Ehrich. That's what's weird.
We do. Yeah. We're up in 1,200 some a day listens, and so it's moving.
That's great.
Yeah,
And it's grown
so it's
quite a
weird.
bit,
It's like I don't know what the heck happened. Like why you'll see people, you'll look at the downloads on a certain site, and you'll see very low downloads and lots of comments. And is that their friends or what's going on? So how is it that you know the results when you're doing social media? What's the difference between like getting your friends to like something and then having a legit presence?
Well, there's analytics that are available, right? So LinkedIn being a professional site, most people join either to advance their network, to get more people in their network so that whether they want to reach out to them to do business or they want to use them as a resource for something, you really have to want to grow, whether that be get your brand out, get your message out. And in doing so, like any platform, there's elevated membership that you can purchase. And with that comes the ability to obtain those analytics, which for some are very valuable. Not only does it tell you who may have looked at or liked your post, it also will give you companies, their titles within that company, their geographical area. I mean, there's a lot that you can really glean from that taking an ad out in a publication, for instance, doesn't really provide you.
Well, I wouldn't say that goes for everything but the today's lighting distributor that Neil puts out. The today's lighting distributor print ad is fantastic. It really is. But I understand the temptation towards metrics, right? Metrics are important.
Right.
And in the online world, you can get information about how many times your post was viewed, for example. But the marketing art is a black magic art. What's your secret, Christina, outside of the metrics and all that? How do you sauce it up?
I'm not going to give that away for free.
Dang it.
Good answer. Woo.
What made you start this business? What was it? Was there one factor that just said, I got to do this now and it's because of this, or you just gradual?
COVID. So really, COVID sent me through a spiral of soul searching. So I've been in the industry for a really long time, as you guys know, and I do have quite a few customers that have followed me throughout my career. And when this all hit in February, March, I had spent the majority of my career traveling from LA to Boston, Minnesota to Florida every week. And that all stopped. And quite frankly, not only myself, but many of my colleagues found ourselves without a job, or for the foreseeable future, the job as we knew it. And so I started to think about, what value I could still provide my customers, still utilize knowledge that I have over 20 years in the industry. I can't walk away from that in some respect. And I talked to a couple of my friends in the industry, and one friend in particular, she's like, why don't you just do that? Why don't you do this? You can utilize your knowledge and still work with your clientele and still remain in the industry. And I started thinking about that, and the more I thought about it, it was like, yeah, light bulb went off, and I just started digging in. And as soon as I did, I must have hit a nerve because uh, immediately I got requests for engagement. In fact, I've got almost more business than I can handle myself at this point. And I guess it might have been timing. It might have been a need that had just never been addressed in our industry. It might have been the fact that a lot of, unfortunately, sales and marketing people have been furloughed during this pandemic. But frankly, there's a lot of tier 2 companies in our industry that either don't have a full-time marketing person, or they do, but they don't have the language, right? They didn't come from the industry. So what I'm hearing from my clients is that, hey, I've got a great web designer, I've got a great marketing person. They really can put great brochures together and everything looks jazzy. But then I have to basically write all the content myself. I'm an executive in my company. I should be on the road selling, not writing content. And so that's what I'm hearing, the feedback from my clients, and why they're actually hiring me is it isn't that they don't have the knowledge to do it. It's that they don't have the time to do it. They think they're going to get around to it. They always say, yeah, we've got that great project and we really should get a case study together. 6 months goes by. Well, maybe the efficiencies on the product that you installed on that project are no longer as efficient as what's out there in the market today, and it becomes old news, right? So I provide a service that allows them to advance their marketing goals very affordably, and then they can get back to doing the business that they expect their salespeople and themselves to be doing, which is out there selling and supporting their customers.
And what type? I know we talked a little bit about business type, but if you had to break it down, is it majority of it manufacturers? Is it distributors? Is it ESCOs? Where does it fall in?
Right now, yeah, it's the majority is manufacturers right in the tier 2 space. So again, there's a lot of quote unquote manufacturers that are importing product from overseas, and there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Mhm. Yep.
But they might be a sales team of 10, and there's a president of the company that's also somewhat of a salesperson, and they're out there in the field, and they just don't have the time or the resources to put these things together. And it's, again, a necessary evil. They have to do that. They want to grow the brand. They want to compete amongst all the other guys in the industry. And in order to do that, you have to look legit. And they recognize that. I do have one distributor that I'm working with as well that they're kind of morphing and evolving into a more turnkey
Nailed member,
type
right?
of.
Nailed member.
Yeah, absolutely they are. As a matter of fact,
Okay.
they're both a nailed member and a NAMCO member.
Oh, both. Woo! They're cheating. Cheaters.
Perfect.
Yes, that's right. Which I encourage everyone to do, of course, because there's value to be had by both organizations.
Oh
Sure.
yeah, for sure.
And if you were going to put together, without giving away your secrets again, but just tips for lighting companies for marketing, what should they be doing other than hiring you? We know that, but what other little things should we all be looking at?
Well, certainly spec sheets are costing them money because while they might not be getting the feedback, their spec sheet on someone's desk is being compared to someone else's spec sheet.
Great point.
And if it's apples to apples, you both got a gee whiz nice high bay, and you both are made in America or assembled in America. What sets it apart is a really poorly written spec sheet. Makes it look cheap, right? These guys don't know what they're doing. Versus the guys that have a little bit more of a cleaner, straightforward spec sheet that speaks the language of the industry, gives the data that's needed in order to make a sound decision when you're comparing product.
But it's interesting. I always when it comes to these spec sheets, the sizzle, the sauce, whatever you want to call it, I always compare it to wine.
Oh.
And why do I compare lighting to wine? Because most people don't know anything about lighting, and most people don't know anything about wine. So.
Well, they both come in a box, right?
Yeah. There you go. I think Greggy's into box wine up there in Minnesota. That's yeah, he loves that box wine. You should come out with a hot box wine, actually. But so nobody knows anything about wine, and nobody knows anything about lighting, right? So you say, "Hey, Jimmy, go buy a bottle of wine." Hey, Jimmy, go buy the lighting. He goes to the store, and he's looking at the shelves, but Italy, whatever, and he's looking around, and he sees this nice bottle of wine with a really cool label on it, right? It's got a cool label, and it's presented nicely. That matters so much, man. Like, most people don't realize that nobody's going to get into your product as much as you think they should get into it. They need to get hit with something. In the lighting business, that's the spec sheet, right? So which spec sheet are you going to put in front of your customer, right? If you're a distributor, you're going to drop that nice Keystone cut sheet. There it is. No spelling mistakes, laid out properly, whatever it is, right? And are you going to put this other guy who's calling the tubes milky, that's weird, so there's a point of sale where at the point of sale, at the moment of truth, at the decision point, marketing, perception, feeling, that's so important.
Right. It's lending credibility to your brand, right? And if you don't have that, while your product may be just as good as everyone else's, it has a cheapness about it. If you didn't go that extra step to make sure the spec sheet is written in a way that speaks the language of the industry, is in keeping with the framework that we're used to seeing, what else have you skimped on? Well, maybe you didn't care about that enough. Maybe you didn't care about the fact that, this container quite up to snuff, or the screws in your fixture are no longer stainless steel, or the gaskets maybe got cheapened out. I mean, it speaks a bigger issue for your brand. It really cheapens your brand. And it's vitally important. I can't stress this enough. to keep it in the language of the industry, because that spec sheet gets seen if it's a new construction in front of an engineer and specifier, which will laugh you out of their office, but an agent as well. It's critically important to get an agent's mind share. In their agency may have 5 salespeople, may have 25 salespeople, and they may have 20 lines to sell, or they may have 80 lines to sell. But there are commonalities amongst all those manufacturers. And I'll tell you, if you're having a hard time getting sales from your agents, it's probably because there's something that you're doing in your spec sheets that aren't in keeping with the other lines that they're comfortable selling. When they walk into a distributor and a distributor says that they've got a great high bay project, they need 80 high bays, and you've got 5 lines on your line card that have high bays, and you give them your options, and one of those options is just represented on a piece of paper with a bunch of verbal vomit that doesn't make any sense, you're out of here. Now, will the manufacturer ever hear that feedback? I don't know. But the agent doesn't take you seriously, pushes the lines that they're comfortable with that also are a reflection on their agency. This is a brand, right? This is a high quality brand. This is a spec sheet that you can trust the data, the way it's written, and you understand what the product is versus, just throwing some data on a page and then put a picture on it. So I think that, these are in some cases, in a lot of cases, the very first introduction to your brand is that spec sheet. And it starts at the agency level and it works its way down the chain.
In my company, I'm the owner, but I'm also the complaint department. I love complaints. I love a good complaint. Like what went wrong?
It's an opportunity.
Yeah, what
Right.
went wrong? It gives you the visibility, because the person that has the coulions to call up and bitch, that person is so valuable, because for every one of those people that actually calls you up and says, listen, buddy, this sucks. You got to fix this. You guys suck. Your business is shit. Really? Tell me more. What else don't you like about it? I didn't like this. And those guys are the best, or gals are the best, because those
Right.
people, for every one of those, there's probably 1,000 people who don't say anything.
Absolutely right. Yeah, it's an opportunity to get better.
Oh,
For
yeah.
sure.
I love those people. They always leave happy with me, because I tell them, tell me more. Tell me more.
Yeah.
Tell me more. Give me more of that feedback, that love. I get all manner of criticism, and I love it. And a lot of people shut that down. They think it hurts their ego. But that's where the gold is, man. Listen to that person
Absolutely.
who's got the guts to call someone up and say they suck. Those people are so valuable to you. Like
The fact that they took the time to do so,
yeah.
Speaks to the fact that you were probably almost there as being their choice, and something ticked them off right at the moment they were going to make their decision on who to go with. And you were right there, but something was just wrong. And the fact that they took time out of their day to let you know so that you have an opportunity to correct it and get better, you probably earned their business from that point on. Versus, the poor bastard that's sitting there with 4 spec sheets in a distributor's office, and they just laugh at that spec sheet and throw it up in the can. You never hear that feedback, and you never have an opportunity to get better. So
who cares about the jerk, though? He's just giving you the information. Because there's 999 more people that are just never going to call you, that
That's
you've
right.
already lost.
Yep. Yeah.
You've already lost
What a
them because
shame.
they're not willing to call you up. And nobody wants to be Debbie Downer. You know how I know?
Right.
Because I'm always the jerk. I'll tell everybody anything. I'm always going to tell them exactly what I think. That's why I have a podcast. But if somebody says, hey, what do you think, Colligan? Brrr! It's like, oh, he's such a jerk, but he's right. That happens a lot to me. So, but listen to those people, because they're telling you what everybody else doesn't want to tell you, because they're not disagreeable enough in their personality type. They don't care enough about
What
you.
a shame. What a shame to lose business over such a simple piece of paper, really. You're not being judged on the flashiness of it. You're being judged on the legitimacy of it, right? And to lose 1,000 people, maybe 2,000, depending upon how long you've had that spec sheet in circulation, is ludicrous, because for under a couple $100, you can have what you need to have to represent your brand and your product legitimately in the field. And to lose business over that is just insane.
And what a shame to be so stuck in your ego that you can't listen to
Right.
someone who's complaining and realizing that you may have messed up and that you need to fix something. Christina Calaway, thank you for being a guest on the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Keystone Technologies. Go to KEYSTONETECH.com. Greg, KeystoneTech.com.
Great website, great company, great marketing that they offer, as we talk about today in the show. Outdoor fixtures, though, something you don't always think about for Keystone, but they have them now. They have wall packs and they have floodlights. Coming out with area lights soon. Pricing is great. Options are awesome. They make them color selectable, so you can choose your Kelvin temp. Even get down to 3K if you want to start getting friendly to the skies. You can check it out. Keystone's got it.
Oh, come on, man. You know what's interesting about Keystone is if you want someone on the leading edge, if you want someone on the bleeding edge, but also delivering that value and backing their warranties and being there for you at the end of the day, you got to go to KEYSTONETECH.com, baby. That's KeystoneTech.com. Longtime members, Greg, of the National Association. Long time now. Got to be 10 years. They've been in the game with Nailed. So you got to go to KEYSTONETECH.com, baby. Greg, Nailed. What do you got to say? Join.
Got to say, it's where it's at, man. We got to check it out. We got a lot of exciting things coming up this year. Be a part of it.
You know, we talked about on the show the difference between Nalmco and Nailed, and of course they're not totally different. I mean, but when you get into lighting, totally different. You know, if you're outside of lighting, they kind of look the same, but different organizations. If you're a distributor and you're not associated with us yet, what are you waiting for, man? Got to get in with us. What are you talking about? This is where it all happens, all the education, the networking, everything. So go to NAILD.org, Greggy. And, hey, Christina Calaway, you're still with us.
I am, yes.
She made it through to the end. Throw out your website in that for anybody listening that wants to do some good marketing in that.
Yeah, sparkmedialtg.com.
SparkMediaLTG.com, baby. So there you go. Hey, it was a lot of fun talking to you. I'm glad you stuck around at the end to do the ad and the intro and conclusion with us. And I hope to...
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I hope that we'll meet in person one day.
Me too. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening, folks. All the people out there. Bye for now.
Written on the rectory wall, there's a sign there for all. You are lost, Lord is there to find you.